Hello, everyone. Welcome. Welcome to Live at 5. Although last week I told you your homework is to help me figure out a name for our group. And I got some great names, some of them wildly inappropriate. So that made me laugh. I'm not going to pick those though, but they were funny. And so I was kind of going throughout my day, and when I start thinking about things and being intentional, I end up coming up with different ideas throughout the day. So I figured one out and I'm going to show it to you now. Are you ready? This is what we're going to call our group. Here we go. Just simple. We are here for the horses. Okay.
Chilling.
And the reason I came up with that is because you know how they say, I'm just here for the, what's that saying? I'm just here for the food, or I'm just here for the whatever. Yeah, we're just here for the horses, man. So here for the horses. Live at 5. And I'm going to see if I can maybe get one of my 11 or 13-year-olds to work on this graphic, and they can make it a lot cooler than I can. But that's what we're going to do. So we're going to be live at 5 here for the horses. Okay. I think that fits our group pretty well. So you like that, Kay? Also, Leanne is traveling, so she's not going to be here. And she was like, I'm sorry. I'm like, it's okay. You can miss the Sunday. It's all right. All right. So there is our new title. Today, we're going back to school. We're going over all things muscles. So it's going to be more book work today. And I cracked open my own school stuff. I have pages of muscle stuff. It's just kind of good information to know. It's not something you're probably going to remember, but I'm going to have some keywords that you can say, and people think you're really smart, so that'll be fun. We just throw them out in random conversation, and we're going to look amazing. All right. So we're going to go over some muscle stuff, a little break from what we normally do. I'm going to talk about a new ebook I have coming out, an offer that goes along with that, and then we're going to discuss our homework for this week based on the journey through the horse. Okay. So all things muscles. Oh, actually, let's go over the homework for this week, shall we? So let me pull up, I don't even have it pulled up yet. Let me pull up my clinic. Oops, courses. All right, so we have worked our way through. We've done the head, face, jaw, TMJ, hyoid, neck. We've done the neck. Okay. We are still working on lateral flexion. So if you have more lateral flexion videos to send in, please do that. We have done the wither rub and the scapula rub. So our homework, and then we did the pectoral slap and the bicep rub. Okay, so our homework for this week, let me show it to you on here. Boop. Share screen. There it is. Can you guys see that? This is my clinic. Is going to be the belly rub and the belly lift. Belly rub and belly lift. We'll see how your horse, Kay, likes the belly rub. She might not like it. What's her name? That's okay.
Her name is Lexi.
Lexi. Okay. Perfect. All right. So we'll see. Some horses may not like the belly rub right off the bat. But right now is a great time to rub the belly. Somebody tell me why. Wanda goes, flies. Flies, those nasty little buggers. Okay, so they make those little scaly things on the belly of the horse. That's the only time Georgia goes, yeah, I like it. I like it. Do it some more. Okay, great way to win your horse over. That's a great way to win your horse over. So what I like to do is scratch it like they want me to scratch it, right? Because they like it scratched hard. I don't know if your horses go out and find like a bush or like a burn pile or something, they climb on top of it and they get their belly on it and they kind of go like this. That's them trying to scratch their belly. Okay, so I like to scratch that really hard for them. So you're gonna find those spots when you're doing the belly rub. You're gonna find them and then scratch them and the way they want them scratched, and then put something on it to keep the flies off of it. Okay, SWAT's a great one. Whatever works for you where you're at, you know, I don't know, whatever works. But put something on it that like keeps the flies off of it. You know, you just kind of scratched at a little scabby thing, so it's gonna be seeping or something like that. So put something on it, keep the flies off. Those can get really bad. So we don't want them to be walking around. Their tails are always swishing because it's irritating, okay? So that'll be a good one. That belly rub kind of loosens up all that fascia on their abdominals. They have a really big fascia plane on their stomach, really big, really big. And remember, fascia is influenced by warmth. Okay, warmth and movement. So your nice warm hand under there rubbing around is going to loosen that fascia up. Things you may want to look for are if they cough. Okay, they could cough because you know what do they do when you loosen the ribs up? Cough. Okay, if they haven't expanded their ribs, if their ribs have been tight for a long time and you loosen them up, all of a sudden they go into a coughing fit. Same with when you're riding them around in the arena and they finally take a deep breath and then they start coughing. You guys ever notice that? Some horses, the ones that really kind of, oh yeah, we're here, we're gonna rumble, okay, right? So they finally take that deep breath and all of a sudden they start coughing and everybody looks over at you like, did you bring your sick horse here? Ew. It's just from taking that deep breath. You know, if you ever laughed really hard and then all of a sudden start coughing, same thing, same thing. So you take those big breaths. Are you listening, Angie?
That's Willow. And she's there.
Oh, Willow? Oh, Angie's over there. Oh yeah, she's got her blanket on. So yeah, you might notice that. That's normal. That's good. That's good. Okay. They might not like it in the beginning, so do what you have to do to convince them that it's okay. So if they don't like the rubbing, do some slapping. If they don't like the slapping, do some light rubbing. If they don't like light rubbing, do hard rubbing. Okay. And then go back to what you started with and see if they're tolerant of it now. Because a lot of times they just don't want you messing around with stuff. But once you win them over, they go, oh, okay, I guess it's not that bad. Okay. And then the belly lift, I'm pretty sure I say it in the video. I haven't watched that in a while, but we are not doing a belly lift to improve a top line. We are not doing a belly lift to improve a top line. And I've talked about this before. If you sit up 3 times a day, do you get a 6-pack? Nope. I wish too. That'd be great. I would sit up 6 times a day if that were the case. Okay. So I know that some people do belly lifts to improve a top line. I have never seen it work. I have tested it myself on my, you know, sway backy older gelding. I mean, it was genetic that his back was like that because I saw a picture of his father, and I was like, oh, okay, never mind. That's how you're built. But there was little to no improvement, and I was doing it like twice a day on him, multiple sets. Okay, but I do a belly lift to see if the abdominals know how to fire. Okay. Do the abdominals know what to do when you say, lift the belly up? Or do they go, I can't, I'm not strong enough. So the belly lift is more of a tool for you to use as an assessment of how strong the abdominals are and do they engage. So if your abdominals do not engage with a belly lift, I can almost guarantee you're not engaging them when you ride them. So they're fooling you. Okay. So that's the homework. It'll be easy. This is easy homework. And then continue with lateral flexion. And then this week, I think I'm going to do a special video showing what I see in lateral flexion. And you've seen them on some of the videos that I have my voiceover on, that if their neck goes down and you see that one vertebra popping out like that, that is not a round neck. Okay. You need the neck to be round all the way. So if you have like that one vertebra down toward the base of the neck is like pointy, it's a problem. Got to fix it. Okay. Easy peasy. If you have any questions on that, just let me know. All right. Homework, good. Any questions so far? Okay. We will go to muscles. So we're going to talk about muscles. Muscles are cool. This is going to be more of like a school style classroom discussion on muscles. So I don't expect you to remember it. If you would like my notes and outlines, just let me know and I can send them to you. Also, this information is not my information. I did not go to school to study muscles and all the biology of them. I mean, I did, but I didn't make it up. So all of this information has a home that I got it from. This is one of them. That's the first school I ever went to, called EquiTouch. They're based out of Colorado. I also went to a school called Northwest School of Animal Massage, and they do a great job explaining muscles too. So you will hear this information. I mean, if you go to human massage, you're going to get this information also. So it's really common information. It's out on the internet. If you want to study it more, absolutely do so. Okay. So, muscles. There are 3 types of muscles. There are smooth muscles, involuntary striated muscles, and voluntary striated muscles. Okay. So smooth muscles are involuntary, and you'll know when I tell you what they are. You're like, oh yeah. And there's no visible striations. Okay. So in muscles, you can see striations, but not in smooth muscles. You can't, because they don't have them. Muscle cells are normally arranged in bundles, a network, or sheets. That's information, sheets of muscles. Okay. And it's found in systems that are automatic. So they are regulated by the autonomic nervous system. Like, here you go, the digestive tract, or walls of the blood vessels. So now it makes sense when it's voluntary, right, or involuntary. You don't have to think about your stomach, you know, making your stomach work. And no striations. So most people think of like stomach lining as smooth, right? There's no like muscle fibers ripping through there. Okay. And it's autonomic nervous system. Okay, involuntary striated muscles. So again, we're involuntary. Are also called cardiac muscles. These muscles are only found within the heart. So involuntary striated muscles are only found in the heart, and they're called cardiac muscles. Okay, they are contracted and regulated by the autonomic nervous system. Again, same with the smooth. No voluntary nerve stimulus is required, and generally no conscious control of heart. There's no conscious control of the heart muscle. Okay. Now I did test that, because when I went to start my mare under saddle, my heart was beating so fast. And I was like, you cannot get on this horse with your heart going that fast, Erin. She's going to sense it. And so I tried to calm my own heart down, and it did not work. And I was like, you have to breathe. You have to be calm. Someone told me to sing a song. They said, sing a song, it helps you relax. And I was like, this little light of mine, I'm the light shine. I went all the way back. I went all the way back to childhood. Okay. It didn't help. My heart was still flowing. That heart rate did not come down until I got off. And I had been trying to get it down for a good 10 minutes. It was wild. Okay. So those are involuntary striated muscles or cardiac muscles. All right, now on to the good stuff. Voluntary striated muscles are called skeletal muscles. They are used to move the skeleton. And we've talked a little bit about this just kind of randomly. Okay. They are under voluntary control via the somatic nervous system. So they do require a nerve stimulus for contraction. Another kind of interesting thing is that the cells of skeletal muscles are multinuclear, which means they contain several nuclei and normally located near the surface of the cell. You're like, when is this going to come up? I don't know. Jeopardy, possibly. You're around some brainiac and you can be like, oh yeah, you mean the multicellular nerve bundles? Yeah, okay. From the somatic nervous system? Yeah, all right. Okay. Let's talk about the basic structure of skeletal muscles. And this kind of goes into my favorite thing. Okay. Skeletal muscles are made up of strands or bundles, which it's actually pretty interesting. This can get really confusing because they're made up of a lot of little parts and pieces, and they're kind of all jammed into this tube. And then there's a whole bunch of little tubes in the big tube, and then there's smaller tubes in the smaller tubes, okay? So this can get a little deep, but skeletal muscles are made up of strands or bundles, which are made up of hundreds to thousands of microscopic fibers. These fibers are covered by a sheath called sarcolemma, which contains a fluid called sarcoplasm. And this links the muscle fiber and the tendon and helps with the elasticity of the muscle. Okay, nerves, connective tissue, and blood capillaries lie outside of that. And their job is to nourish, activate, and support the muscle fibers. So if you were to go even smaller into each fiber, they consist of thousands of smaller units called myofibrils. Now, these are actually talked about a lot in muscle stuff, the myofibrils. The workers of the myofibrils are protein filaments called myosin and actin. That could definitely be on Jeopardy. That could definitely be on Jeopardy. What are the protein filaments of the myofibrils? You'll be like, myosin and actin for 300. Okay. Myosin and actin control contraction. And when contraction is called for, actin filaments pull past myosin filaments and the muscle is shortened. The energy source for the contraction include glycogen and triglycerides, which I think we've all heard of at least those words before. I was happy to know that, which are stored within the muscle fibers. Okay, so you might hear those words floating around now. So what I want to talk about, and I have a couple cool videos today, is the sliding filament theory. This is cool. This is cool. Sliding filament theory. Each muscle fiber has a nerve ending that receives impulses from the central nervous system. When the signal is received, calcium is released to the myofibrils. This saturates the actin filament, allowing the actin filaments to bond with the myosin filaments, causing the muscle to shorten in length. The actin filaments are pulled past the myosin filaments like an extension ladder being shortened. Okay, so there's a super cool video that someone talented did that I'm going to show you guys. It's like 4 minutes, I think. So hold on. Okay, we don't need that anymore. Here we go. Can you guys see that? I'll make it bigger. Okay. Here we go.
Sliding filament theory is the mechanism by which muscles are thought to contract at a cellular level. An understanding of the structure of skeletal muscle is useful when learning how sliding filament theory works. Each muscle is made up of a number of bundles of muscle fibers. Each bundle of muscle fibers contains anywhere from 10 and 100 individual fibers. Each muscle fiber itself contains cylindrical organelles known as myofibrils, which themselves are bundles of proteins called actin and myosin. Surrounding the myofibril, there is a network of tubules and channels called the sarcoplasmic reticulum, where calcium is stored. Each myofibril can be broken down into functional repeating segments called sarcomeres. If we look at a two-dimensional model of a sarcomere, it consists of actin and myosin. When a nerve impulse arrives at the muscle, it causes a release of a chemical called acetylcholine. The presence of acetylcholine causes depolarization, enabling calcium to be released from the sarcoplasmic reticulum. The calcium binds to troponin, changing its shape, and so moving tropomyosin from the active site of the actin. The myosin filaments can now attach to the actin, forming a cross bridge. The breakdown of ATP releases energy, which enables the myosin to pull the actin filaments inwards, contracting the muscle. This occurs along the entire length of every myofibril in the muscle cell. When an ATP molecule binds to the myosin head, the myosin detaches from the actin and the cross bridge is broken. When the ATP is then broken down, the myosin head can again attach to an actin binding site further along the actin filament and repeat the process. This repeated pulling of the actin over the myosin is often known as the ratchet mechanism. This process of muscular contraction can last for as long as there are adequate ATP and Ca+ stores. Once the nerve impulse stops, the Ca+ is pumped back to the sarcoplasmic reticulum, and the actin returns to its resting position, causing the muscle to lengthen and relax.
There you go. Okay, so what's cool about that, even when I was in school doing it, I was like, oh my gosh, what? It's just pulling, and so if a nerve pulse is sent, it pulls it, pulls it, pulls it, pulls it, that's your contraction. And then when the nerve stops sending that, it goes, okay, never mind, and it relaxes. Okay, so it's just a sliding filament theory. Just slides back and forth. It's really cool when you start thinking about that and how that all happens. And I don't know if you caught it in the video, but it also kind of promotes healthy eating, right? Because you need to have the proper nutrients in order to have the chemicals that need to be stored in the muscles in order for that to happen. So if you're not getting enough food, your muscle is not going to be able to grow and function properly. Okay? So sliding filament theory, there you go. All right, a broader view of muscles. That was a very small view of muscles. Okay, muscles generally consist of a body or belly. So I talk muscle bellies a lot. I call them bellies. And two ends, which attach to the bone with tough connective tissue called tendon. So remember, tendons attach muscle to bone, ligaments do not. Tendons are for muscles. Okay. The majority of these muscles, tendons, the majority of these muscles have attachments to two different bones. So if you think, yeah, it's used to move a skeleton, it needs to be attached to two bones to do that. And it says the majority, so I assume there's some that don't. I couldn't name them off the top of my head, to be honest with you. Someone gets extra credit if you figure out which ones they are, okay? So they attach to different bones. One is called the origin and the other one is called insertion. And I know we've talked about this because you will kind of hear people talk about origin and insertion. So the way I say it is that origin is the one that's attached to the strongest core of the skeleton that is not going to move. Okay, and then the insertion is attached to the part of the body that you want to move. That's how I explain it to people. Well, I guess they kind of explain it the same way, but they're just a little more eloquent than I am. But they say the main difference between origin and insertion is that the origin is the attachment point of muscles which do not move during contraction, where insertion is the attachment point that moves during contraction. Origin muscles are normally closer to the trunk or proximal. So if you hear that word, that means closer to the inside or the trunk. And then insertion muscles are on the extremities or distal. So distal, distance, further away, distance. Okay. Now, some muscles, depending on if there is weight bearing on a leg or something, change their action. So that can be a little trickier. We'll talk about that a little bit later, actually. But and some muscles have two muscle bellies because they go over two joints, So there's always kind of some exceptions to rules that are talked about, but these are general rules. Okay. Muscle classifications. Muscles are classified according to the action they perform on the body. Flexors are muscles that flex or close the joint, and extensors are muscles that extend or open the joint. So two super easy ones. Oh, and they normally oppose each other. Okay, so they're normally on the opposite side of whatever to each other. So the easiest example of that is the bicep and tricep. So the bicep closes the joint, tricep extends the joint, and they're on the opposite sides. Okay. You also have adductors. And the way I remember adductor is that the ADD, you're adding, so you're bringing together. Okay, adductors draw parts of the body inward, and abductors draw parts outward. So adductor, add them together, abductor, take them apart. So I talk about the adductors in between the hind legs, but you have opposing muscles that are the abductors of the hind legs. Also, bicep femoris is one of them. Okay. Other actions that muscles have are elevation or levators and rotation. So you have ones that bring the head up, and then you have ones that rotate stuff. So bicep femoris also rotates. Okay. Issues with muscles. I'm going to talk about the two main ones that occur, or the two main that I run into. You know, we all get sore, so soreness that's fine. That's nothing wild with the muscle. It's probably some muscle tears, right? Pushing that muscle hard. But I want to talk about adhesions, and I'm going to talk about trigger points, also known as knots. Okay, so adhesions are stuck muscles or tissues. They are normally between layers of muscle fibers and between muscles and other tissues. Okay, adhesions are fibrous bands of scar tissue. Well, it's scar-like tissue that can form because of inflammation, injury, surgery, or negative repetitive motions. Okay. Now, what I thought was really cool is this photo. Okay. Let me see if I can make that big. Can you guys see that? Mm-hmm. Okay. So this would be a representation of a nice muscle that's moving properly, and this would be a representation of adhesions. Okay, so something happened something happened and it throws the whole system off. This is why horses compensate so much when they have adhesions, right? We've heard of the gelding scar, right? Okay, scar tissue. That one that's common, it's called myo something in the hind end when the hamstring gets stretched and ripped too far, and then the horse loses range of motion in the hind end from slipping. Their hamstring gets one of these in it. Okay, you can see how this would move much better than this. So important to loosen up these adhesions as much as possible. If you can't fix them completely, loosen up everything around it. Okay, so let's say you just loosened this part up. Okay, still gonna have some wonky stuff going around other places. Okay, so adhesions are important to find. And then you have to pay a lot of attention to everything around them also. Okay. Let's see. Adhesions can limit mobility, limit range of motion. They can obviously cause discomfort and pain, as you could tell by that photo. And they can cause compensation in other areas of the body. Okay. So what do you do to get rid of those? Well, techniques like friction and deep tissue massage are normally the best bet. So if you think about it, friction, rub that hard and deep. Get it to break up, loosen it up as much as possible. What else does friction do? I mean, the rest of massage does it too, but friction especially does what?
Warming up.
Yep, warms it up. But why is it warm? New blood. Brings that blood in. Which for some reason just made me think about friction on the legs is great. Remember we talked about that in the winter? It's cold. Friction on the legs. Bring the blood down into them feet. Friction on the legs helps horses that are shod. Brings that blood down into the legs. Okay. And then deep tissue. So deep pressure is what I use when I find the spot. And I also do that on knots and trigger points. Okay, breaking down the fibrous tissue, improving blood circulation, and promoting realignment of muscle fibers is key. All right, knots and trigger points. So I was taught that a trigger point is a knot that has a nerve ending somewhere close to it. And so what happened is this knot gets angry, a nerve ending is around it, and then the nerve gets shot off. So it displaces tension to a different point in the body. Okay. So a knot can not be a trigger point, but a trigger point is always a knot. It just has referred pain. It shoots to a different place on the body. So I want to show you one because I have a great video of it. So share screen again. I'm going to share this one. Boop. And then let's go here. Whoops, don't need that anymore. Move this so I can see. Okay, here we go. All right, everybody can see that? This is a cute little pony. You know what? Unfortunately, the trigger points are weird on cameras. They don't show up very well, but I think this one is big enough to see. So I hope you guys can see it. But my fingers are here, and I want you to look like right here. And I know it's blurry, but it shows up pretty good. Hold on. You see it? Huge. Woo, that's a bad one. That's a lot. Okay, huge trigger point. So it's all along the rib shelf here, going up toward the loin. So watch that one more time. Did everyone get to see that?
Yeah.
And I'm doing kind of deep pressure, moving along the rib shelf. Making the entire back trigger. So all that pain is referred kind of up into this area. So if you think about, you know, horses that are uncomfortable under saddle, think about them having these trigger points and you're riding them. It might feel wild. Okay. So that's a trigger point. Generally, it's small and fast because every point that's a trigger point has one thing it shoots to. That was a series of trigger points because as I kept sliding my hand on the ribs, it kept triggering. So that was not one trigger point, that was multiple. And that's common to have multiple trigger points. Okay. And then I have another cool video for trigger points. So I want to show you that. It explains it really well. It's for humans, but they did a great job. So let's go to that. That can go away now. Here we go. All right, let's make that big. All right, here we go.
Many people suffer from pain and physical problems. Very few people know that these problems are often related to trigger points. Understanding and treating trigger points helps to lessen pain and improve overall health. This video is a short explanation and introduction to the trigger point. A trigger point is a small muscle contraction which can be felt as a small nodule. Pushing on this nodule is very painful. Trigger points can exist in each muscle of the body. Multiple can exist at the same time. Often both sides of the body are affected equally. The trigger point keeps the muscle tight and weak, restricting the muscle's range of motion. A trigger point can actively cause pain, or it can cause no pain unless touched. Mostly this pain is sent to a different area of the body. This is called referred pain. Referred pain can make finding and treating trigger points difficult. Luckily, referred pain follows typical patterns that have been well documented. Let's take a closer look at the trigger point. A trigger point lies in a taut band. A taut band is a tight strand of muscle that feels like a cord, easily mistaken for a tendon. The trigger point itself can be felt with the fingertips when its location is superficial. The size varies from a pinhead to a pea. When we continue to zoom in, we can see the muscle fibers that make up the muscle. The lines on the muscle fibers represent sarcomeres. Millions of sarcomeres, acting like tiny pumps, have to contract to create movement. Sarcomeres can become overstimulated and unable to release their contracted state. This knot of contracted sarcomeres shows a segment of the fiber that has become shorter and wider because of this. But also a different segment now becomes stretched by this tension, shown by the greater distance between the sarcomeres. Together, multiple of these sarcomere knots form the trigger point. The stretched segments of the fibers give tightness to the taut band in which the trigger point lies. When sarcomeres are stuck in contraction, blood flow stops in the immediate area. The resulting oxygen starvation and accumulation of waste products irritate the trigger point. The trigger point responds by sending out pain signals. In return, your brain will stimulate you to stop using the muscle, which further shortens and tightens up the muscle. Trigger points will not release without proper treatment. The most effective way to treat a trigger point is applying deep stroking massage directly to the trigger point. This can be done without the help of others. Deep stroking massage means performing a series of deep strokes across the trigger point nodule. In this example, a rubber bouncing ball is placed between the body and the wall to reach the trigger point in the lower trapezius on the back side of the body. You can see the ball moving slowly and deeply in short strokes from one side of the trigger point to the other. Series typically consist of about 8 to 12 strokes and are performed about 5 to 10 times a day. By using deep stroking massage, you are milking the trigger point, so to speak. Blood and lymph fluid is moved out containing waste generated by the contracted muscle fibers. Each time you move over the trigger point and release the pressure, fresh blood immediately flows in, bringing fresh oxygen and nutrients. It may take several weeks to return the muscle fibers to their normal state and fully release the trigger point. Trigger points which have existed for a long time will take a lot of treatment, but often results can be achieved in days, meaning less pain and improved mobility. You can find references to more in-depth information about trigger points and their treatment in the video description below. Many people suffer from
Whoops.
pain and physical problems. Very few
Hold
people
on.
know that these problems are often related to trigger points.
There we go. All right, isn't that cool? I love that video. I thought that was so well done. So trigger points on horses are the same thing. The way that I fix them is deep pressure with my thumb. Hold it for, they teach 35 to 45 seconds. I have found it does not take that long, and horses also don't really appreciate it because, like that video said, it doesn't feel good. So I hold it for about 15 seconds. Deep pressure. It's, you know, it's shooting the whole time, deep pressure. And then when it kind of stops shooting, I'll hold it a little longer because I love the way he described that. Well, he said milking it. I don't really like that term, but I squeeze the death out of it. Okay. I'm taking it down to flat because I imagine them like this. Okay. And then I'm going to come along, I'm going to push it down, flatten it out, push out all the bad stuff. And then after the 15 seconds, I take my pressure off and I rub that whole area. And I encourage the new clean blood to come on in there and fix those filaments. Okay. So pretty cool that, and he said, you know, this can take blah, 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 blah to fix. Nah, it's fixed in one shot if you do it right. So they might be sore a little bit. If a horse has a lot of trigger points, especially like where, you know, the saddle goes and all that stuff, that's a day off. So those are, I'm very serious about. You guys know that in general, the horses I work on, I don't require that people give them the day off just because they're on kind of a strong schedule with me. So they're good to go. But if they have a bunch of trigger points or they're a new client, nah. 2 days. 2 days for that horse to reset. And I will encourage them to take them for a nice walk in the pasture in hand, spend some quality time with them. Or, you know, whatever your horse likes to do, something nice, you know, something nice. We're always doing stuff for us. Let's do some stuff for the horses. So if they had a real tough massage session, I'll be like, what does your horse, go take them, put them in the trailer, go for a trail walk where you're walking and you both go for a hike. You know, get them, movement's great because movement is blood flow. So I don't want them not doing anything. Like don't have a rough massage session with me and then put them in a stall. Don't do that. Take them out, walk them. Put them on the lunge line if they kind of like doing in-hand work or obstacles or stuff like that, do that. Just don't ride them. So that's not very fair. Okay. So that's trigger points and knots. So you got to press those knots out. And I like how both that information, all those videos went together nicely, didn't they? Okay. So now you know some of the words they're using. Okay. And then, as I said before, nutrition is important. We talked a little bit about that. I'm not a chemist, and there are a lot of chemicals involved in muscles and health. But acetylcholine, you guys heard that one already, is a neurotransmitter that triggers the release of the stored calcium. Okay. And then the calcium, which activates the interaction of the myosin and actin through the intervention of the tropomyosin and tropopin. Okay. And then magnesium. And we've all heard about magnesium, haven't we? Everyone always said, oh, just give your horse magnesium. Well, what if it isn't magnesium? Okay. So sometimes it helps. Yes, that's great. But I don't like to just throw food stuff at horses when you don't really know what they need. But magnesium stimulates the calcium reuptake by the calcium activated ATP PACE. Okay. And that's located in the muscle membrane. So yeah, a lot of chemicals are required and nutrition is required in muscle stuff. So anytime you have like a malabsorption syndrome going on too, or you have a toxicity of a muscle, that's going to cause a toxicity of a heavy metal or vitamin or mineral, that's going to be a problem also. So sometimes we're overdoing feed. I mean, I've had some clients where I'm like, the muscles aren't acting right. What are you feeding? And they take 5 minutes to tell me what it is. And I was like, yo, you gotta knock it down. You know, they just keep giving them more stuff. So it could be a toxicity. That can be a problem. Okay. And then different regions are deficient in different things. So West Coast, we are deficient in selenium. I've heard we are high in iron. And then we are low in magnesium, but that also kind of depends. Wanda, do you know what your region has issues with? Is there kind of like common knowledge about that?
We are not, there are a lot of parts of Wyoming that have way too much selenium in them, but they tend to be in the southwestern part of the state. We have good selenium levels here. Our soils are low in phosphorus and low in magnesium.
Okay.
We have plenty of calcium. But yeah, it's the magnesium and phosphorus are things that we're short in here. So
Okay.
I feed a mineral supplement, just because, you know, our forage varies so much year to year because we're almost always in some kind of drought, and that really affects nutrient uptake. And then it depends on if you're feeding irrigated hay or dryland hay and all of that. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I've seen those horses that have had those selenium toxicities where they lose all their mane and tail and lose their feet, and it is hideous to see.
Yeah. And I mean, until you catch it, you don't know what's going on. It's just a
Yep.
nightmare.
Yep. And they just look unthrifty in the beginning. And,
Yeah.
you know, they go another 6 months or so, and it's like, oh my God. And, you know, it's really difficult to walk that back because, as you know, then you have to do that chelation therapy.
Yep.
Where you're giving them more minerals with the hopes of pulling that out. And that's a very long process with horses. It's
Yep.
bad, but it's really long with horses. So,
Yeah.
yeah, welcome to the West.
Nancy, what about you, Nancy? Do you know about your kind of like your geographic area? What issues you have nutrition wise?
No, I
Yeah.
don't really. We're about to get our soil tested. So I might know more then than for us. But I
Yeah.
did the horsehair analysis and my horses were deficient in several things.
Yeah.
And toxic in lead and something. I forget what the other one was, but lead. They were all toxic in lead.
Wow, really?
Yeah. So the three
Okay.
horses, I didn't test the mules.
Yeah.
Anyway, we put fancy RV filters on our hydrants
Oh, that's right.
to try to eliminate, I mean, they say they'll eliminate the heavy metals. So, and I have to change them. The outside one gets changed, I think, every 3 weeks, and the inside hydrant not so often because we don't use as much water inside. But anyway, that horsehair analysis is pretty interesting.
It's fascinating. And all of my horses are vastly different. So I don't have any that are the same in anything. So that's, yeah, that would make it easier because you'd be like, oh, it's something environmental here. When they're all different, it's, you know, one of them was in utero because she was toxic and off on 7 or 8 toxic just wildly, and she was only 2. So sorry, but you're not getting all that. And a full sibling of that horse died at birth. And then the mom was messed up, so that was definitely in utero. She should not, and she shouldn't be breeding her anyways, because she's HYPP. Anyways. And then Georgia was very different from Tanner. Tanner was just deficient. He was not toxic. Georgia was toxic in like 2 or 3, so not too bad of the heavy metals. And then my dad's horse Dakota, who I think came from Montana, was toxic in 6 heavy metals. So he had the chelation, Wanda, and 3 years of it finally got everything out. And what was interesting when I was talking to Dr. DePaulo is that some of the toxic heavy metals come out last. So you get some of them out first, and then some of them come out last, the ones that are stored in the brain tissue, is what he said. Because I did another hair test analysis on him like the 2nd year, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm killing this horse because he's toxic again in different heavy metals. And so I called up Dr. DePaulo, and he's like, no, that's really good, because now it's coming out of the brain tissue, where before it was just stored there and it wasn't moving. And I was like, okay, I'm back on the level then, thank you. So we got all that out of him finally, so that was awesome. Okay, that's all I have for muscle stuff. That's a real solid foundation. That's pretty much the basics that they teach in school. And it's just kind of good. And it applies to humans also. So if you ever find yourself with a trigger point, what I do, and it's mine are a little bit higher than in that video. I take a tennis ball, I put it in a sock. Well, I go get massages. Let's be honest here. I go get a massage.
Right.
But if I need to fix it right away, I put a tennis ball in a sock and I flip the sock over my back and I press up against the wall.
Yep.
Okay. Works great. I also get trigger points around here that shoot pain up my arm from massage. So those are extra fun. But just kind of good information. Anyone have any questions about that?
I have one. On your video of the sorrel horse that was
Mhm.
having, I mean, you were back here and the
Trigger points.
spasm, whatever you want to call it, was
Mhm.
further up. What did you feel underneath this hand where you were just pushing down into that? How did
Yeah.
that feel different from the surrounding tissue?
So remember in the video, he said it can feel, I don't know if you heard it because it was kind of faint, but it can feel like the top of a pin up to a P.
Yeah, I did hear that.
It felt like, it felt about half of a P, each one.
Okay.
So that's kind of how you find them. You find them, one, by going real slow. You could see how slow I went, right? And then when it started triggering, I would kind of stop and like look around in that area and find the strongest trigger. And that normally ended up on like a little P head. So then I press that one out. And then I go and I press that one out. And I keep going and I press the whole thing out. Now, with that particular horse, let me see if I have it. I had an after video. Let me see if I still have it. I mean, he was good. He was good to go. So I think I did an after video. And that's what you want to check for, is that you have to check and make sure that you got it. And if you didn't get it, keep looking, keep finding it to a point where, you know, you don't want to be making the horse mad, right? Like if it starts escalating, you're going to have some issues. There's the before. Hold on. Oh, I don't have the after. But the after was smooth sailing. So I just would run slowly, you know, the plane, like from Sore Back series. And this is, you know, it's not right next to the spine. It's slightly down on the rib shelf. So that's another difference. But plane real slow. And then all that muscle, all that skin just rolls real nice. Okay. Good question. Anything else? All right, cool. All right, so as a lot of you know, I have, well, a couple of you, I think, I have renamed I'm launching a ebook Okay. Here it is. Okay. Equine. Understanding equine body language, deciphering cues for effective body work. So this is my first ebook. If you had it before, it was called What Now? Or what did you say? Which didn't make any sense. Discovering equine tension. Okay. But this is kind of my introductory book into just understanding the cues that the horse are giving you. And then in there also I have a couple massage moves to try on your horse. So it's easy peasy. So the deal is, if you guys want to share this onto your Facebook or with a couple friends, let me know that you've shared it and you get 15% off for sharing it. And you get 15% off anything. Some of you already have this. So whatever you want, 15% off any of the ebooks. And what I'm working on right now is I am working on getting kind of a dashboard going because most of you already have the 7 telltale signs of tension. I am, you guys, a lot of you have the senior horse, loving your senior horse, taking care of your senior horse. And then I'm actually really excited. And then you guys also have, I'm doing one on introvert versus extrovert. And then I'm really excited about one I have coming out. I just need to finish it up. So I'll let you know about that, but I will eventually have, like a dashboard that shows everything. I'm just kind of working on it. I don't like to be on the computer all the time and it always takes so much effort. So I try to massage horses instead, but then I don't get my computer work done. Okay. All right, that's what I have for you. Any other questions, comments, concerns? Did everyone get the homework written down?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. And then keep sending me lateral flexion. I think I'm just gonna have that as a rolling homework piece. It's harder. It's harder to do. If y'all watched Shannon's videos, she did a great job and the horse even got her, you know what I mean? Like he just skips from the first vertebra. So with her cases, it was the first vertebra's good. That head like actually overflexed the first vertebra and then it was straight and then overflexed to the lower vertebra. So they're good at accomplishing the task, but we want them to do it properly. So keep sending those videos and I'll keep watching them. Okay. That's all I got. Sylvia and I are going to do a one-on-one and I'll get the recording right this time. I think that test out there by the barn worked pretty good. So we should be good.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right. That's all I got, guys. Have a great night.
Thank
Bye.
Thank
you.
you.
Bye.
See you later.
Bye,
Bye.
everyone. Bye.
Bye. You too.